started with something small. It always does. That morning, Chicago was blanketed in frost. The kind of cold that crawls under your skin no matter how many layers you throw on. The heater in our apartment clanged to life like it was trying to shake off its own exhaustion. I had just come in from walking our dog, Murphy, nose still red and fingers stiff, when I realized I'd left my chapstick in Claire's bag the night before. We'd gone out to dinner, or rather, she had asked if I wanted to grab a bite after work, which had become her recent way of saying she was too tired to cook but didn't want to talk at home. Her purse was sitting on the kitchen counter, wide open. Harmless. I didn't even think twice about reaching in. We've been together 8 years, married for 4, and for most of that time our lives had blended in the kind of way where boundaries felt soft. Not crossed, just shared. The keycard was wedged beside her sunglasses and a tube of mascara. Glossy black with a silver stripe across the top. The Winslow Hotel, it read, printed in that sleek serif font you see in upscale travel magazines. The kind of place where you don't just show up, you plan to be there. I'd never been. Neither had she, as far as I knew. At first, I thought maybe she'd picked it up for a friend. Maybe it was from a client. Maybe she'd even brought it home as some kind of surprise. Claire used to do that, little surprises. I once came home to a weekend getaway planned, bag packed for me, just because she'd found a discount code and thought we both needed the air. But this didn't feel like that. I pulled it out slowly, like I might be wrong, like the logo would shift, or the card would vanish between my fingers like a magician's trick. Instead, something else fell out along with it, a folded Uber receipt, crinkled and worn, like it had been shoved into her bag in a hurry. I opened it carefully. 1:13 a.m. Drop off at the Winslow Hotel. Just 2 nights ago. I stared at it for a while, the timestamp burning into my brain. Claire had told me she was exhausted that night, said she was crashing early after a full day at the firm. She hadn't even come to bed, not really, just curled up on the couch with her laptop, or so I thought, and I had left her there around 11:30. My throat tightened. I ran my thumb along the top edge of the card, willing it to dissolve. Didn't. I knew I shouldn't jump to conclusions. I told myself that a hotel keycard doesn't mean what I think it means. People forget things in bags. Mistakes happen. I clung to that explanation the way someone clings to a railing on a sinking ship, too afraid to let go and see what's really waiting below the surface. Then I picked up her coat. It was draped over the back of the dining chair. Not her usual one, but mine. Claire had started sitting in my spot recently. I don't know when it changed. I don't even remember the moment she started doing it, but now that I think about it, she never asked. Just slid into it like it belonged to her. I used to think it was cute. I lifted the coat up, intending to hang it up properly, when something made me pause. The scent. Subtle but distinct. Not her usual perfume, the one I bought her last Christmas. Not even the one she wears to meetings, the serious one, as she calls it. This was something else. Woodsy, spiced, faintly citrus. Masculine, like someone had hugged her and held on too long. Or like she had worn it, like it clung to her, not by accident, but because she had spent hours wrapped in it. My fingers curled tighter around the coat before I made myself let go. The sound of the front door unlocking shook me from my thoughts. Claire came in, her phone in one hand, coffee in the other. She looked polished, pulled together, like nothing was off. Like my world wasn't currently trying to tilt itself sideways. "Hey," she said, brushing her hair back and leaning in to kiss me on the cheek, her lips barely touching skin. "You seen my notebook? In your bag," I said carefully. She didn't notice the shift in my voice. Or if she did, she didn't show it. She walked over, rummaged through the purse like she always did, keys jangling, phone buzzing again. She pulled out the notebook, then paused for a second, frowning lightly. Couldn't help it. "What's the Winslow?" I asked, keeping my tone even. Curious, not accusatory. She blinked, looked up at me, then at the keycard, which was now resting on the table, out in the open between us. Her face didn't twitch, not even a flicker. "Oh," she said lightly, already half turning away. "That is from a client event. We hosted a networking thing there Tuesday night. I didn't stay or anything, Someone must have dropped their card into my bag. You know how those things are. She sipped her coffee. Cool, calm, effortless. That's what got me the most. Not that she lied, if it was a lie, but how natural it sounded. Like she'd been prepared for the question. Like it wasn't the first time she'd needed an answer to something like this. I've heard of the Winslow, I said slowly. Thought it was mostly couples and tourists. She shrugged. They're expanding into corporate stuff, I think. It was nice. A little over the top, honestly. I didn't love the lighting. The lighting. I said nothing. She slid her laptop into her tote bag, kissed me again, the same half-second press of lips, like you might give a friend's dog, and grabbed her keys. Don't wait up tonight, she added as she left. I might be stuck late with the Hollister account. And just like that, she was gone. I stood in the doorway for a long time after she left, holding the keycard, the receipt still unfolded on the counter. The kitchen light flickered once. We'd meant to fix it for weeks, and the silence that followed was heavy, dense. I didn't cry. I didn't rage or slam cabinets. I just stood there, staring at the evidence of something I didn't yet want to name. But deep down, something had cracked. Not a shatter, not yet, but a fracture, quiet and precise. The kind you only notice after you've stepped on it a few times and wonder when the ground started to feel hollow. That was the moment. The moment I stopped believing her kisses. The moment her perfume stopped feeling like home. The moment I stopped telling myself that doubt was paranoia. The seed was planted, and it was already starting to grow. The rest of that day moved in slow motion. I kept going through the usual motions, fed Murphy, responded to emails, even sat through a Zoom call with my manager about quarterly targets, but nothing felt real. Every task was a blur. Every word spoken to me was met with a nod I didn't remember giving. My body went on without me. My mind had parked itself in the kitchen beside that hotel keycard and refused to leave. When Claire texted that afternoon, "Busy day. We'll probably eat late. Don't wait up, blue heart." I stared at the screen for a full minute. That little blue heart used to mean something. Now it just looked like a placeholder. Like she couldn't be bothered to say, "I love you." So she sent a symbol instead. That night, I lay in bed alone and thought about all the things I hadn't thought about in months. Maybe even years. Like how she used to leave her phone charging on the nightstand. Now it stayed glued to her side, face down, always locked. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen her actually use it in front of me. She used to scroll TikTok beside me while I read before bed. Now, she scrolled in the bathroom with the door closed. Or how her working late started right after her promotion. At first it made sense, new title, more pressure. But that was nearly 6 months ago. And still, she came home late at least 2 nights a week, sometimes more. Never frazzled. Never exhausted. Just quiet. There was the matter of her wardrobe, too. Subtle changes at first. A couple new blouses. A different style of heels. Then came the dresses. Tight, tailored, professional enough to justify, but not something she'd have worn to a strategy meeting before. One of them still had the boutique tag on when I accidentally knocked over a laundry basket and found it tucked under a towel. And the gym sessions. Claire hated the gym. Her version of exercise was yoga in the living room or a long walk with a podcast. But now, every Saturday morning, she'd pull on leggings and a crop top, grab her keys, no gym bag, no water bottle, and be gone for 2 hours. When I asked if she wanted to go together, she'd smile tightly and say, "It's kind of my alone time." Even her car started to betray her. One Sunday afternoon, I borrowed her keys to refill the windshield washer fluid. I wasn't snooping. I didn't go through her glove box or anything. But when I turned the engine over, I noticed the trip odometer was way off. She'd told me she'd only gone to her sister's the day before, a 14-mile round trip. But the car showed 47 miles since the last reset. It was a small thing, so small that it could have been anything. But by then, everything felt like something. I started noticing her smile more closely. Not the one she gave to strangers, the warm, open one that had drawn me in the first time we met, but the one she gave me. Tight-lipped, polite, efficient, like she was saving her real smile for someone else and rationing out a placeholder for me. When she kissed me, it was always on the cheek. When we lay in bed, her back faced me. When I reached for her hand on the couch, she'd pull it back to scroll through her phone. Always just checking work. Though her screen was dark half the time, I tried not to spiral. I told myself marriage goes through seasons, that maybe we were just in a rough patch. That maybe she was stressed and didn't know how to say it. But those excuses started to sound more like lullabies, something I whispered to myself to fall asleep at night. Then came the dreams. I started dreaming about her with someone else. I never saw his face, just the back of his head, his arm around her, her laughing in a way I hadn't seen in years. In the dream, I'd try to call out her name, but my voice wouldn't come. I'd wake up gasping, heart pounding, and look over to see her still asleep, peaceful, oblivious. It was like living with a stranger who still wore my wife's face. One night, I came downstairs around midnight to get a glass of water and saw her pacing on the phone in the living room. She froze when she noticed me. "Oh, it's just Jenna," she said quickly, covering the mic, drama with her fiancé again. She smiled, too wide, and whispered something before hanging up. The call screen disappeared before I could glance at the name. Jenna, her sister, lived in a different time zone and had 2 kids under 5. She didn't take calls at midnight. Claire knew that I knew that, but she counted on me not saying anything. And I didn't. Not then. Instead, I waited until she went upstairs, then checked the reflection on the darkened TV screen. It had shown part of the contact name. I couldn't read the whole thing, just the beginning. Ty. That could have been Tyler, Tyson, Tyrell. It wasn't Jenna. I went back to bed and stared at the ceiling until the sun started bleeding through the blinds. The strange how quickly doubt becomes instinct. I started keeping a small notebook in my work bag. At first, it was just scattered thoughts, things I needed to remember, ideas for projects. But eventually, I started jotting things I noticed. Not to build a case. Not for revenge. I think I just needed a place to store the questions that wouldn't leave me alone. Tuesday. She said she had a late call, came home without makeup. Different earrings than the ones she left with. Didn't mention it. Friday. Supposed to be at her sister's. Sister posted a pic on Instagram. Claire wasn't in it. Mileage shows 30 miles round trip. Her sister's is 12 miles away. Sunday. Found a Starbucks cup in the trash. Name written, Claire and T. Not our usual store. I never showed the notebook to anyone. Never meant to. It was like a diary for the version of myself that didn't exist in our marriage anymore. The quiet observer. The man who had once been in the center of her life and now watched from the sidelines. I still made dinner. Still asked about her day. Still folded her laundry and added her favorite oat milk to the grocery list. From the outside, we probably looked fine. Boring, maybe, but stable. But inside, I was starting to drift. Not away from her, but away from the idea of us. The version of us I had clung to for so long. The couple that always found their way back, no matter how far they strayed. Now, I wasn't sure there was a way back. One evening, I pulled an old box from the back of the closet. It held our wedding photos, some handwritten vows, the dried petals from her bouquet. I used to open it whenever we fought, a reminder of what we were fighting for. This time, I didn't cry. I didn't feel warm nostalgia. I just felt distant. I didn't recognize her eyes in the photos. Or maybe I didn't recognize the way they used to look at me. That's when I realized I wasn't looking for proof anymore. I didn't need a smoking G*N or a confession. I already knew. What I was really waiting for, what I feared most, was the moment I'd have to decide what came next. And somehow, I knew it wasn't going to be a confrontation. It was going to be something quieter, something irreversible. It happened on a Thursday. Claire had mentioned a charity gala the week before, said it was formal, partners only, black tie. She tossed the details out casually while grabbing coffee, already halfway through an email on her phone. I remember nodding like it was normal, like it wasn't strange that she hadn't invited me, like we hadn't attended every gala together for the last 3 years. It's work, she said when I asked if I should RSVP. Just client-facing stuff. Long, boring speeches. Trust me, you're not missing anything. I didn't press. I didn't argue. I just waited. because by then, I had remembered the iCloud account. A long-forgotten relic from when we first moved in together. Claire had set up a shared Apple ID on our old MacBook, said it was easier for syncing calendars, playlists, reminders. We stopped using it after a while. She'd switched to her work laptop. I got my own. But I never deactivated the connection. Neither did she. I didn't even think she remembered it still existed. That Thursday evening, after she left in a sleek black dress I hadn't seen before, makeup flawless, hair curled with a softness she didn't use for boardrooms, I opened the laptop. The screen blinked awake like it had been waiting. Her photos were syncing. At first, there were just receipts. Screensh *TS. A calendar event labeled Winslow Booking, confirmed. My heart skipped when I saw the date. 2 weeks prior. The same day as the Uber receipt I'd found in her purse. The reservation was under her name. Paid with our joint credit card. Room 712. Then came the photos. There weren't many. Claire wasn't the type to take selfies. But there were enough. One caught her reflection in the hotel mirror, dress slipping off one shoulder. Her hair undone in a way I hadn't seen in months. Behind her, blurred but unmistakable, was a man's silhouette, shirtless, holding a glass of wine. Another showed her bare legs stretched across hotel sheets, the corner of a laptop glowing near the edge of the frame. His hand, only a portion of it, rested against her knee. The timestamp read 12:41 a.m. I stared at the screen for a long time, my breath shallow. Not because I was shocked. I wasn't. I'd known. I think I'd always known. But there's something about the moment knowing becomes seeing. Cuts differently. His name showed up in her contact list later. Tyler Matthews. Synced from a saved iMessage thread that hadn't fully downloaded but left behind a trace. The name alone was enough. I remembered him from years ago, one of Claire's classmates in grad school. A guy she'd talked about fondly but never frequently. He'd been a footnote in a few stories. Funny, brilliant, too smooth for his own good. I never thought twice about him. Until now. The email tied to the hotel booking matched his company's domain. A startup in Boston she had once casually mentioned over dinner. Something about rebranding their product line. I realized then that every time she said she was traveling for work, it had lined up with a new charge at the Winslow. Different rooms. Same hotel. Same man. There was even a reservation listed for last month's networking retreat in Milwaukee. Another boutique hotel, another card charge, same pattern. I closed the laptop slowly, like the truth might shrink if I didn't make any sudden moves. But it was too late. It was all there, neatly cataloged in metadata and calendar invites, wrapped in lies dressed as business. No confrontation, no screaming matches, just quiet documentation, evidence. Undeniable. Claire didn't come home until nearly 1 a.m. I stayed awake in bed, feigning sleep, heart thudding like a drum I couldn't quiet. She smelled like a perfume I didn't recognize. Richer than her usual, laced with something floral and sharp. Her heels clicked softly as she moved through the bedroom, humming under her breath. When she finally slipped into bed beside me, she sighed like someone who had spent the night dancing with someone she didn't have to lie to. She didn't notice my breathing had changed. Didn't notice my clenched fists under the sheets. Didn't notice anything. The next morning, I watched her pour coffee, perfectly composed. She wore a hoodie she hadn't worn in years. One I'd given her during our first winter together. She caught me looking and smiled, soft and nostalgic. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. Didn't sleep great. She kissed me on the forehead, mug in hand, and said, "You worry too much, Ethan." She said it like a joke. She said it like she hadn't just walked through the ruins of our marriage wearing new heels and someone else's cologne. That weekend, I went for a drive. No destination. Just miles of silence and open roads, and the radio turned off. I pulled off somewhere near the lake, sat in the car, and opened my notes app. I didn't even know what I was writing at first. But the words came. March 2nd. She didn't notice I stopped saying, "I love you," first. March 15th, hotel booking under her name. Room 712. April 6th said she was in Milwaukee. Credit card shows the Winslow. Tyler Matthews, LinkedIn, Boston-based. Why is he in Chicago? I scrolled until I hit the earlier entries, vague, hesitant. They looked so innocent compared to now. Like a child drawing shadows on the wall, not knowing the monster was real. I stayed parked there for hours. Not because I didn't want to go home, but because I couldn't face pretending I hadn't seen what I saw. That night, Claire told me she was meeting a friend for dinner. I didn't ask who. She didn't offer. We'd slipped so deep into performance that even the silence had a script. While she was gone, I opened the laptop again. This time, I downloaded everything, the photos, the receipts, the calendar logs. I emailed them to myself under a different address, created a backup drive, then wiped the local history. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because part of me thought she'd try to gaslight me if I ever brought it up. Maybe because I needed the proof to remind myself I wasn't imagining it. Maybe because I still couldn't fully believe she'd do this. Claire, who once cried when I chipped my tooth on our honeymoon because she hated seeing me in pain. But she did. And somewhere along the way, she got good at it. That Sunday, we had dinner with friends. One of those couple things where everyone brings wine and pretends they haven't all secretly drifted apart. Claire was radiant, joking, present. She held my hand under the table like nothing was wrong, squeezing it softly when the conversation drifted to vacation plans. I played along, because that's what you do when your world starts to unravel in silence. You blend in. You nod at the right times. You laugh at stories you've heard 100 times before. You smile through the ache. When we got home, Claire dropped her heels by the door and curled up on the couch with a glass of wine. She asked if I'd rub her feet. And I did, because that was the moment I knew. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to ask why. She'd made her choice. Now it was my turn to make mine. After that Sunday dinner, something in me shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No fireworks. No sleepless night filled with shouting or tears. Just a quiet click, like a door locking from the inside. Something subtle and final. I woke up the next morning and didn't reach for Claire. Didn't say good morning. I just got out of bed, showered, and left the house before the sun fully cleared the horizon. That became my new routine. I started waking earlier than her, something that used to be impossible. Claire always beat me to the coffee maker. Always had one headphone in as she answered early emails, already dressed for her day. Now I made sure I was out the door before she even opened her eyes. I didn't go to work early. Not at first. Most mornings I just drove. No destination. I'd park in the same lot beside an old community park by the lake. The kind with cracked benches and a playground too rusted for kids to use. I'd sit in my car and write. Not poetry. Not letters. Just a running list of everything I had ignored. The time she came home with a smudge of lipstick on her collarbone. Not her shade. The night she claimed to be at her sister's, but her sister tagged someone else in a post from 3 cities away. The look on her face when she laughed at someone else's text. The way her thumb hovered over her phone like it meant something. I wrote until my fingers cramped. Then I'd fold the pages in half and slide them into an envelope I kept in the glove box. I never planned to show them to anyone. I didn't need revenge. I needed release. There's something about writing it down that makes it real. Like carving it into stone. I stopped asking myself if I was overreacting. The facts were already written in my own handwriting. Claire kept going through the motions. Maybe she noticed the small changes. Maybe not. I stopped restocking her favorite creamer in the fridge. She didn't say anything. I canceled our joint Spotify account. She started listening to podcasts instead. I unsubscribed from our shared grocery app and made my own list. Separate staples. 2 strangers eating from the same kitchen. Even Murphy picked up on it. Our dog used to sleep curled between us. Now, every night, he padded across the room and lay at the foot of my side of the bed. Some mornings he'd growl softly when Claire reached down to pet him. I never corrected him. Eventually, I redirected my paycheck. Not all of it, just enough to make a point. I opened a private bank account Claire didn't know about. New password. 2-factor authentication. Took 15 minutes. 1 click and part of my life became invisible to her. I didn't do it to be petty. I did it to build a wall. quietly, one brick at a time. Next, I called our internet provider and had the billing access switched to my name. Then the utilities. Then the streaming services. Everything she had once asked me to handle so she didn't have to deal with the hassle, now mine. I took my name off the lease. That one was harder. I called our landlord, explained that I'd be relocating soon for a remote work assignment. Temporary. Just wanted to update the paperwork. He didn't ask questions. When the email came through for digital signature, I clicked without hesitation. Claire still hadn't noticed, or if she had, she didn't say anything. She was too busy crafting her new life while still benefiting from the stability of the old one. We were partners in appearance only, her anchor and her alibi. So I stopped anchoring, stopped reminding her about client calls, stopped double-checking if the rent had gone through, stopped topping off her gas when I borrowed the car. She started missing things. One morning, she rushed out in a panic. Car almost on empty, coffee machine broken, no clean dress shirt in the closet. She cursed under her breath as she slammed drawers shut. I sat on the couch with my coffee and said nothing. She didn't ask why I hadn't helped. She just grabbed her bag and left without kissing me goodbye. That was the first day I felt powerful again. I started changing my passwords. Slowly, methodically. Netflix, Amazon, my email, even my location sharing permissions, the ones we'd set up just for safety. I turned them off. She didn't mention it. She may have noticed. Or maybe she stopped checking a long time ago. I began going to the gym again. Not for vanity, for clarity. There was something therapeutic about the repetition, the way your body moves until your mind shuts up. I found myself enjoying the silence of it. No notifications, no excuses, no her. On the treadmill, I'd close my eyes and picture a life without her. Not in a cruel way, just in a possible way. A version of me that didn't revolve around checking in, smoothing over, making excuses. I liked that version. One night, while she was working late, I opened the closet and started separating our things. Not all at once. Just the basics. My jackets. My shoes. The shirts she never wore but always claimed were her favorites. When we went out, I packed them into a large duffel and stored it in the trunk of my car. Then I printed copies of the hotel receipts and slipped them between the pages of one of her books on the shelf. A novel she claimed she'd finish someday. She probably wouldn't notice until months from now. Maybe longer. It wasn't meant to be found. It was meant for me. A breadcrumb. A reminder that I saw her. That I had stopped pretending. The thing about emotional detachment is that it's invisible. From the outside, everything looks the same. Same apartment. Same couple. Same routines. But on the inside, it's quiet. Hollow. And you begin to see the cracks in everything. The way she laughs too loudly when she's hiding something. The way she hugs with one arm now, her other hand clutching her phone like a second pulse. The way she never asks about me, my work, my day, my anything. I used to think that was normal. Now I know it's not. The more I pulled away, the more performative she became. She started making breakfast again. Pancakes on Sundays like we used to, only she never ate hers. Just pushed them around her plate, smiling like it was a scene she was trying to act out from memory. She started leaving notes on the fridge. Love you, have a great day. Written in her old cursive. The kind she hadn't used since our wedding. It was like watching someone try to revive a ghost. Going through the motions, hoping I'd forget the betrayal buried beneath her mascara and meal plans. But I didn't forget. Couldn't. And the more she smiled, the more I started seeing the guilt behind her teeth. By the end of the month, I had gathered everything I needed. Not just the evidence, though that too, but me. I had myself again. I knew what I wanted, what I didn't, what I would no longer accept. And I didn't need her validation to justify any of it. I was still sleeping in the same bed, still sitting across from her at dinner, still feeding Murphy and asking about her day. But I was already gone. She just hadn't noticed yet. At first, Claire didn't notice. She still floated through the house like it belonged to someone else. She still left coffee cups half full on the counter, Still dropped her gym bag by the door like I'd pick it up eventually. I didn't. I walked past it every day like it wasn't there. But then, the little things started to register. She asked why Spotify kept logging her out. I shrugged. She asked if I'd seen the electric bill email. I said I hadn't. She asked if I'd signed us up for the neighborhood cleanup day. I told her I didn't see the point. She laughed at that. Not because it was funny, but because she didn't know what else to do. I left the conversation there, flat, unmoving, like her laugh had been aimed at a wall. That's when the shift began. She started checking in more often. Do you want anything from the store? Should I pick up dinner tonight? Are we okay? The last one took me a second to process. We were brushing our teeth. She asked it like she was talking about the weather. I spat into the sink, wiped my mouth and said, "Why wouldn't we be?" She looked at me like she was trying to remember who I was. That night, she curled closer than usual in bed. Her hand found mine under the sheets. I didn't move away, but I didn't squeeze back, either. She was trying, but not in the way I used to beg for. She wasn't rebuilding trust. She was preserving an image, trying to tidy the cracks in the glass so no one could see them splinter. The unraveling was slow, so slow she didn't feel it at first. I started leaving clues, not obvious ones, just echoes. One afternoon, I left a printout from the Winslow's website on the desk, the page showing their private suites. It was folded neatly, slipped beneath a stack of magazines. She found it. I know because the next day it was gone, and the magazines had been rearranged like someone had tried too hard to make it look untouched. She didn't say a word. 2 days later, I deleted our calendar reminder for our anniversary. No mention, no dinner plans, no flowers, just silence. She didn't bring it up, not even when the date passed and I went to bed early with a headache excuse. A week after that, I accidentally left the shared credit card on the table, face up. A transaction circled in pen, Winslow Boutique Hotel, $286. 44. She saw it. Her hand froze when she reached for the envelope beside it. She looked at me. I looked at my cereal. Neither of us blinked. She didn't ask why I circled it. She just folded the statement and put it back in the drawer. The more silent I became, the more she overcompensated. She started making smoothies in the morning again, just like she used to when we first moved in. She packed them in matching cups and wrote our names in Sharpie like some twisted kindergarten craft project. She smiled too much, laughed too loudly, took selfies in the kitchen and tagged me in them with captions like, "Love my mornings with him, smiling face with hearts." Even though I wasn't even in the photo. At night, she'd throw herself into small rituals, lighting candles, playing soft music, wearing old pajamas she hadn't touched in months. The kind she used to joke made her feel cozy wife-coded. It was all performance. But I let her perform. Because the more she tried to rebuild the illusion, the more obvious it became that she didn't know who she was trying to convince, me or herself. I think the panic really set in when she checked my location. She must have noticed it wasn't updating anymore. I never mentioned I'd disabled sharing, but I knew the day she discovered it. She called me at 4:37 p.m. on a Tuesday, not to ask where I was, just to say, "Hey, everything okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Why?" "No reason, just checking in." Her voice was flat, like she was trying to keep her hands from shaking. I told her I was running errands. She didn't ask what kind. That same week, she started texting more. Random updates. Ran into Marcy at the store. Thinking of making pasta tonight, smiling face with smiling eyes. Just missing you a little. I didn't respond to most. When I did, I kept it short. Cool. Up to you. Busy. She was trying to tether herself to something she'd already let go of. A rope she'd frayed with every lie, now slipping through her fingers as I stepped further out of reach. Claire used to be so good at lying, at blending her truths into something soft enough to swallow. But now I started seeing the cracks in real time. She told me she had a conference out of town, gave me the name of the hotel. I already knew the real one. She'd accidentally left her email open on her iPad. A booking confirmation to the Winslow. Again. She made a point of packing in front of me, stressed over which blazer to bring. Asked if I could feed Murphy while she was gone. I said sure. I smiled. And when she left the next morning, I didn't wave goodbye from the porch like I used to. I didn't look up from my coffee. But I did leave a note in her suitcase, folded into her makeup bag. Just 5 words. You left the door open. I never heard her mention it. Never saw it again. But when she returned 3 days later, she was quieter. Her smile was smaller. Her eyes softer. She tried to kiss me. I turned my cheek. That weekend, we went to brunch with friends. She held my hand under the table again, like she had during that other dinner weeks ago. But this time, her grip was tighter, almost desperate. I let her hold it, didn't grip back. When someone asked about our anniversary, "Wasn't it last week?" Claire laughed nervously and said, "We kept it low-key this year." I didn't say anything. She turned to me, eyes wide like she was waiting for backup. I just sipped my coffee, and for the first time I watched her flinch. That night she cried. I heard it from the hallway. Her in the bathroom, lights off, sitting on the floor. I didn't go in. She emerged later, eyes red. She didn't say what was wrong. I didn't ask. We brushed our teeth in silence. When she crawled into bed, she whispered, "Are you mad at me?" I wanted to laugh. Not a mean laugh. A sad one. Because mad felt so far away now. Like another country. Another version of me. "No," I said. "Not mad." She paused. "Then what are you?" I looked at the ceiling. "I'm just tired, Claire." And I meant it. Not sleepy. Tired. Of pretending. Of playing dumb. Of being the only one who didn't lie with his eyes. She reached for my hand under the covers. This time I pulled away. In the weeks that followed, her gestures got bigger. More visible. She posted an old photo of us from a trip to Colorado. Captioned it, "Still my favorite person, yellow heart." I hadn't smiled in that photo. She'd cropped out the background, where we'd just argued over nothing. She sent me playlists labeled, "For Us." Songs we used to play when we were still us. She even suggested we go away together. "A weekend somewhere quiet," she said, "just to reconnect." I told her I'd check my schedule. I never did. But the most desperate thing she did? She started telling the truth. Not directly, but in pieces. One night, she said, "I've been thinking a lot